everybody and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be filming for you my August TBR. So I haven't been doing great at sticking to my TBRs, who surprised nobody, but this month I am going to be spending the first week of it at my cottage, and I have an entire stack of books that I brought or sent up to the cottage with my parents already. So I don't have a ton of them to share with you, and I'm going to be picking from those for the first week of the month. So this TBR is for the rest of the month, basically. While I'm there, I took basically all of the oldest thrillers and used books that I got from the bookstore and brought all of them up to the lake with me so that I can read some and leave quite a few behind with our little bookshelf library that we keep up there for people to pick through whenever they choose. I'm gonna see how it goes with those, but that's my plan for that. For the rest of the month, there are two readathons that I'm going to be taking part in. The first one being the August Equinox, August semester of the Magical Readathon, Aurelium themed, hosted by G over at Book Roast. I'll leave, again, all the links to that down below. This has been an ongoing readathon for the past couple of years, where you've created a character, gone on different quests and different adventures, and this is the final semester of this year, where you can go and finish up your exams by reading books and choose your actual calling. So you started this exam period back in April, and now we're working on finishing up those exams in August. I completed all of my exams for April, so I can continue with both of the callings that I chose, which were Storyweaver and Moon Warden. And yeah, I'm gonna be doing that this month. And I'm gonna be doubling up a lot of prompts because I didn't make a big TBR, because I'm not nuts. That nuts, I should say. And then the other readathon that's happening is happening from the 7th to the 14th, and that is going to be the full moon readathon hosted by Jan over at Jan Agaton. I will leave her links down below and the announcement. This is super exciting. She's had a book club that she's hosted on the full moon of every month for the past year, basically. And this is her first ever readathon, so I'm very excited. There are 4 different paths you can choose. Basically, you can choose the witch path, the bat path, the cat path, I believe, and the ghost. And I'm gonna try and complete all the reading prompts just because I can. So let's just go right ahead and get into the books that I'm planning on reading. So the first book that I'm going to be reading doesn't fulfill any of the prompts, but it's my book club's pick for the month of August, and that is Disability Visibility, First-Person Stories from the 21st Century, edited by Alice Wong. This is a collection of short stories and essays, nonfiction, all written by different disability activists and disabled writers, talking about living in the United States with a disability. It says 1 in 5 people in the United States live with a disability. Some are visible, others are less apparent, but all are underrepresented in media and popular culture. Now, just in time for the 13th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, activist Alice Wong brings together this urgent, galvanized collection of contemporary essays by disabled people. I'm excited about this. I'm excited to learn more about invisible and visible disabilities, and I think it's going to be a really great read and a great discussion to have with the book club. This is going to be my nonfiction pick for the month and my short fiction essays pick for the month as well. So it's ticking off a lot of boxes, but I'm really excited to get to this. I've had this on my TBR since before we chose it for the book club, so this is a perfect opportunity for me to read it. Next up is going to be my graphic novel pick for the month, and for that I'm going to be reading Heartstopper Volume 3. I don't have it in person quite yet, but I'm going to have it by the end of the next month, and I plan on continuing with Heartstopper. I've read the first 2 volumes and I've watched the TV show and I adore it, and so I can't wait to continue on with the series. Don't really have any much to say about that. It's just that's going to be my graphic novel for the month. Next up for my audiobook, I'm going to be listening to a childhood favorite, and I have a physical copy, but I'm going to be listening to The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I want to finally read The Lord of the Rings because I haven't read the main trilogy before. I've read The Hobbit multiple times, and I have quite a few copies of it. This is my favorite, newest copy. Not new as in brand new, but new to me, because this is quite old. But I'm going to be listening to the audiobook, which I've never experienced The Lord of the Rings or The Hobbit through audio before, so I'm really excited about that. And this is going to fulfill a couple prompts for the Magical Readathon. It's going to fulfill the prompt for Ravensbarn, which is to read a book with archers or rangers, and the prompt for Glyph Recollection, a childhood favorite. It's also going to fulfill 2 prompts for the Full Moon Readathon. I don't remember which calling these are for because I'm doing all of them, but I'll leave the graphic up on the screen or in the description as well. But the first one being read a book from an author who's not alive anymore, which J.R.R. Tolkien has passed away, and also a book with a black cover. I'm not basing it off of this cover, I'm basing it off of the all black with little symbols on the inside covers, which are the editions of Lord of the Rings that I have. So basing it off a different cover than this one, but this is the book that I'm reading. Next up, I'm going to be reading a book that fulfills a lot of prompts, and that is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. I started reading this a while ago, but I never finished it, and so I'm excited to finally get back into it and just start reading some kind of spookier paranormal books to get ready for the autumn. And for this, it's going to fulfill the prompt for Time Theories Part 1 and 2, which is to read a book about time travel. The second book has time travel in it, so I'm counting it. And a book with the same word in the title as the book you last read. So this is going to be my first read for the Full Moon Readathon, because it fulfills the prompt of being a vampire book and set in autumn. And so I'm going to be reading this first for Full Moon Readathon, which means I'm going to make my next read be my last read when I'm at the lake, so that I can start this off when I get back. That read is going to be The Witches of Moonshine Manor by Bianca Maris. I'm going to be reading that as a ARC copy that I got from HarperCollins. This book comes out early August, and I'm going to be reading it as my last book that I read at the lake / the book that I read on the plane, so that I can read Discovery Witches right after. This is a contemporary fiction paranormal story following a coven of witches that is being run by a kind of like middle-aged witch who's kind of losing her way. There's a lot of problems with their house, their manor, which is that they've lived in forever. And the only thing that can help them is this new witch that's come onto the scene named Persephone, who's a TikTok star and wants to help revitalize this coven. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be really heartwarming and really sweet, so I'm excited to read that next. That book is going to count as a book involving magic for the witch prompt of Full Moon Readathon, so I'm excited about that. Next up, I'm going to be reading Juniper and Thorn by Ava Reed, and I'm going to be reading this to fulfill the prompt as reading a book that you got as a gift for Full Moon Readathon. This I got from Tyler for our anniversary. He picked this up for me when we were in Stratford. This is a novel inspired by Hungarian folklore, I believe. It's a retelling of the Juniper Tree, and it's high fantasy, and it says it's a story or a gothic horror in which a young witch seeks to discover her identity and escape the domination of her ruthless wizard father. Perfect for fans of Shirley Jackson and Catherine N. Valente. I'm really excited about this. Another witchy story, another fairy tale retelling, which is always a favorite of mine, favorite genre. And I'm just really excited about this. I think it's going to be a really great read, and it's going to be a lot of fun, so yay. Next up is the last book that I'm going to be reading for the Full Moon Readathon. I'm going to be reading What Moves the Dead by T.K. Kingfisher. This is a horror retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher, which is one of my absolute favorite Edgar Allan Poe short stories. It probably is my favorite short story by Edgar Allan Poe. I've read it multiple times and I really love it. I haven't read any T. Kingfisher before, but I know that they are a very beloved author of horror, and I'm really excited to give it a go with this book. This is actually the Literally Dead book club pick for the month of August, so that's what I'm going to be reading for that, and I'm really excited about it. For Full Moon Readathon, it's going to count for a couple of prompts. It's going to count for reading a book with an animal on the cover and a spooky book, so that's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be very gothic, very body horror, I believe, based on the cover alone, and I'm very excited to get to that. Next up, as my final reads for the Magical Readathon, I'm going to be reading The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty. This, again, I got how many pages into it? My bookmark is still in it. I got 130 pages into it before I gave up, just because I was reading it at the wrong time. It was nothing against the book, it was just not a good time for me to be reading at that time. But this is a book set in 18th century Cairo. And it follows Nari, who's a con woman of unsurpassable skill. She makes a living swindling Ottoman nobles, hoping to one day earn enough to change her fortune. But when Nari accidentally summons Dara, an equally sly, darkly mysterious Jinn warrior, during one of her cons, she learns that even the cleverest of schemes can have deadly consequences. So this is going to follow the two of them as they kind of have to navigate this world and right this wrong. And I'm super excited. I've heard fantastic things about this book all across BookTube. One of my best friends, Sel, loves this book. And this entire series, and I cannot wait to finally finish this book. It's gonna be really good. This is gonna fulfill the prompt for Magical Readathon for the Ancient Caves of Daerun, which is to read a book with a desert setting. Next up, I'm going to be reading The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. This was the Literally Dead book club pick for the month of July, but I didn't get to it before the end of the month, and I won't be getting to it by the end of this month, which is when I'm filming this. So I'm going to be reading it during August as well. This is a kind of like a domestic thriller, psychological thriller, I believe, following our main character, who's kind of a widowed actress, I believe. And she is taking the summer off, renting this cabin on a lake, and deciding to drown her sorrows. While she's there, she ends up befriending this couple that lives across the lake, specifically the wife. And one day, the wife goes missing, and creepiness ensues, basically. It's going to be my first Riley Sager, so I'm really excited to read it and see what my thoughts are of this author, because they're very controversial, very polarizing, so I'm excited to see how I enjoy his writing. But it's going to be a really good time. For Magical Readathon, it's going to count for the prompt for Lilivay, which is to read a book with L in the title. And the last book that I'm going to be reading during the month of August is, I specifically sent quite a few Agatha Christie mysteries to the cottage, and I'm going to be reading one of two bind-ups that I have of 5 of her classic mysteries. I've read quite a few of these, and they're just really great to read at the lake. I really love reading mysteries and thrillers at the cottage. And I love reading Agatha Christie's writing, so I'm really excited to get to that. I don't know which one I'm going to pick yet, so it's kind of like an up-in-the-air Agatha Christie novel is what I'm going to be reading. And for sure, they're going to fulfill these last 2 prompts. The first one being the Enhanced Scroll Mending, which is to read one of the oldest books on my TBR. I've had some of these for literal years, so and I've been saving them for my next trip to the cottage, so oldest book on my TBR. And also I'm going to be reading it as The Myth of Sildorus, which is to read a book featuring betrayal. All of my Agatha Christie's mysteries feature betrayal, because they all feature murder, which is the ultimate betrayal. So that is going to be my final pick for the month of August. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is a bit of a short and sweet TBR video because I'm trying to be not as ambitious as I was before. But I'm really excited to read all of these books this month and to let you guys know what I think of them. I'm going to be vlogging all month for Magical Readathon and for Full Moon Readathon, so you guys will be able to see my thoughts in real time. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it really does support my channel, and let me know down in the comments below what you're planning on reading during the month of August, what calling you're going for Magical Readathon, whether or not you're participating in Full Moon Readathon. Just tell me all of your plans for August. If you're new here, please subscribe. I put out new bookish and writing videos every week, and I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye-bye.